Good evening. Tonight we're going to do a dramatic analysis of the Banshees of Inisherin. Well, as much as we can. That's a very confusing story. I am going. Can you share the screen so I may? Oh, you're already way ahead of me. Excellent. All right. So I put in the overall story. The description from IMDb is the overall story description. It's kind of got a little bit of everything, which is two lifelong friends find themselves at an impasse when one abruptly ends their relationship with alarming consequences for both of them. And there are not a lot of key characters, but the top four are Pádraic, Colm, Siobhan, and Dominic. Dominic's the, I want to say, the mentally challenged kid, young man. And then you've got the policeman and other characters. So let's just start off and see if we can identify who the main character is. So Pádraic is Colin Farrell, and Colm is Mad Moody. Mad Eye Moody. That's from Harry Potter. But I don't remember the actor's name. But any thoughts?
And my first thought on this, especially for lack of a better term, arguing with people who don't like this movie, is I think you got to start off with the premise that it's a completely different form of storytelling, like a fairy tale, or especially coming from the Irish genre, that like all the rules, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like all the rules are different as far as storytelling, because it's more like a fairy tale. And it's especially Martin McDonagh, he tell like in a lot of his plays that I've participated in, that it's like all the rules are off as far as like what especially Americans are familiar with. And I think that's what turned off a lot of especially American viewers about this movie, is they don't realize that I think the rules are a lot different when it comes to an Irish fairy tale, which, for lack of a better term, I consider this kind of like like a myth or a fairy tale.
Okay, that may be true, and we will probably find that out. But we can still answer these questions because I think they are the ones that we're going to try. They're fairly identifiable. Some we won't be able to, I'm pretty certain, which would correlate with exactly what you were saying. However, since we're supposed to be doing, a dramatic analysis, I think that would probably be at least start that way, and then we'll go, get as far as we can, and then discuss maybe why we can't get any farther if we don't get farther. How does that work? All right, so who do we see as the main character? Because I think there is a main character.
Pádraic.
Right, the Colin Farrell character.
Yeah, especially as he is the one that gets vengeance, or
no, that's not necessarily, that's not a main character trait. That might be maybe a protagonist or something in the overall story, but I don't think he's doing that as a main character. So for instance, him burying the miniature horse, that was a main character event. And him, how he treats the horse, etc. That's definitely something that Pádraic is doing, as opposed to whatever his function is in the overall story. One of the two friends. Any other thoughts, or is everybody okay with Pádraic being the main character? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Character. Who do we see as being the influence character in this?
Colm. The other guy.
I kind of see it as his sister,
How so?
that she's the one that she's the one that reads him a riot act, and she's the one that finally leaves. So I kind of feel like, a weak form of arguing for her as an influence character. I just think their relationship is she seems to be kind of the one who defines him as far as like what he's doing right and wrong. So I mean that's my argument, that she would be the influence character.
Lloyd thinks it's a handoff in the messages he puts in there. He thinks it's a handoff. I'm assuming between those two characters, unless there's a third character. I mean, let's just find out if there's anybody else in this list before we start identifying who it might be. Yes.
Oh, I wasn't going to add anybody else to the list.
Oh, well, that's fine. Anybody else think there's anybody? Are the two sufficient, or is there anybody else in the list, or ones I didn't include in here that you think? Okay, so let's talk about Colm and Siobhan, and then also the possibility of a handoff. Anybody want to give their 2 cents? It's a chatty group tonight.
I can go. I'm not
Okay.
convinced it's a handoff. Because Colm was the one really putting all the obstacles in Pádraic's path, and Siobhan, she was definitely communicating her distress and her disapproval, but it wasn't in a way that had any impact at all on Pádraic. Even when she left, there, he had an emotional experience from that that seemed to be, though, in combo with the loss of his donkey. So that was my thought, was that if it is a handoff, it's way more Colm than Siobhan.
I would agree with that. I would say Siobhan is just there to help do some main character stuff. But if he had not grown the way that he would, then he would have gone with Siobhan. Like, she's like the one that's takes the path maybe would have been better for him to get out, right?
Right. Yeah, I think she may fill in because of the big gaps between, when Colm sort of is not part of the picture, because he's not allowed to be there, but he's certainly there sufficiently. I think you also see Siobhan being almost like the voice of reason, or in a little bit of a guardian type of a character, trying to think out what's best for her brother, but she doesn't seem to be challenging him in the way that Colm seems to be.
Yeah, certainly. I think his perspective is such a childlike innocence, and that's only really being challenged by Colm, who's moving beyond that, or has always been beyond it, but expressing that.
And as far as Pádraic goes, he he does not understand Colm's behavior at all, and it is affecting him terribly.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what kind of relationship? So I'll keep them both in there because I think there may be there's some support for Siobhan, doing the work of influence character here and there. What is the nature of the relationship?
Best friends.
Or ex-best friends?
Yeah.
Really best friends.
Yeah, yeah. At least considered on one side.
Former best friend.
Well, it's not former yet. So that's the thing, is that when
It's at the beginning of the movie, it's former, yeah.
well, no, Pádraic doesn't think it's former.
But the reality is that it is.
No, the reality is
matter what he
that
thinks.
the reality is that their relationship is in trouble. Their best friend relationship is in trouble, which all of these through lines have some.
Oh no. At the beginning of the movie, he tells him he doesn't want to be his friend anymore, so they're no longer friends. It's not.
I thought that was OS, to be honest. I don't know, like, I agree, the relationship I think is a really strong part of this movie, which I think is part of why I really love this movie. I'd never seen it before, so thank you for doing this one, because I'm like all in on this movie. But yeah, I don't know. I think well, we can talk about when we get to the OS, but I thought maybe that initial scene was a little more like setting up the OS than the relationship through line.
Okay, well, that'll be interesting to hear what you mean by that. So yes. Okay. I'll put X and a question mark.
The reason I say that is we don't see their friendship in the movie ever. We don't go from friendship to deteriorating friendship. It's already worse. It's bad to worse. So I don't think we can say that the friendship's falling apart. It's already done, and it becomes. There are moments of tenderness, obviously, but it becomes something worse than ex-friends.
Sure.
So that's.
But not enemies.
I mean, maybe splitting hairs, but.
I mean, again, this is just a simple label.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Let's move on.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean anything except just as a placeholder for what really is going on in the story. So let's look at the story engine and start with the dynamics, since they'll probably be easier to tell on some of these. Let's start with the resolve, which may not be an easy one, but certainly will inspire a lot of conversation. So the main character resolve is change or steadfast. So we're talking about Pádraic. Pádraic, any thoughts? And please try to give some examples of why you think it's one way or the other.
I don't think he ever changes his mind that they were friends. And I think at the very end, when they're on the beach, the actor's name, he even says, it's almost like he says, "You win." So I think this main character is steadfast to me.
Okay. Any support or other thoughts on that?
I'd say he's totally grown up. It's like he becomes what what's his name wanted him to be, or what he wanted out of him, is to be more mature, more angry, more, he actually kind of turns into the same person that Colm was.
Colm was or is?
Or is, yeah. Or Colm is, yeah. Colm is essentially the same person from beginning to end. I want to do this. I want to just leave me alone. I want to do this kind of thing. And the whole time, Padraic's like trying to get together with him. Come on, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And then at the end, he's like, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to burn down your house and we're going to war, and then split apart.
Wait, so Jim, are you arguing for change?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm arguing for change too.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the whole thing is
So make the argument.
But you can go, Johnny.
Yeah, in the
I was gonna
beginning,
say the whole thing is allegorical to war, right? So you send an innocent person to war, and they come out the other end a totally changed, traumatized person. I think he starts out as with a very much idealized view of the world, and at the end he's murderous. I think this is one of the biggest changes I've seen in the movie in a long time.
And how do we see that Colm is steadfast?
He wants peace. He wants peace at the beginning, and that peace means not being involved with Pádraic. And at the end, he still wants peace. He wants a truce, if you will. But yeah, I think he's steadfast throughout.
Does he want peace? Is that I don't think that's what he starts out. I don't think that's what he tells Pádraic at the beginning. Why did they break up?
Peace to him is just not having to have the friendship, but he doesn't want to be his enemy.
Why? Because he's boring.
He's
right?
bored.
Isn't that what he says right at the beginning? That when he asks why, he's like, because he says you're boring. You don't have anything to offer me if and I'm just tired of it. So I don't want you in my life. I mean, in so many words.
So, Chris, can I ask you a question? I know I'm playing a little bit of catch up here. The one moment to me that made me go, "Oh, did Colm change?" was that he initiated a conversation with Pádraic on the beach.
Right.
But I think you're right. He was doing it because now
boring anymore.
Now it's interesting,
Right. He's no longer boring. He's not just somebody who has all they want to do is drink and whatever, but has nothing to offer the relationship.
Right. Yeah. So I do think that, because he sort of indicates that in the middle in the bar when he says that's the most interesting you've been, when Pádraic is drunk, when he says like, this guy I would be friends with. Right.
Right.
And at the end, when he's sober but a killer or aggressive, he's interesting.
Right.
Yeah. So that's anyway, yeah.
Right. I mean, that was the thing that was this sole excuse for basically wanting to end their friendship, is that he didn't have enough. Doesn't want to suffer fools anymore, and he thinks that Pádraic is a fool. Of course, they have a real fool there too. So, he's not like Dominic. But he's just doesn't offer anything except a drinking buddy, and that's not what he doesn't want. That he wants something more. We don't ever really know why.
I'm not sure that I see that as a change in his worldview, though. Or
in whose?
In Colm's.
No,
it's not. It's not.
I think it's just a change in the nature of the friendship or the relationship. I don't see.
Yes. I'm not arguing for Colm as being a changed character. I was just establishing that the rationale that you're mentioning, why, I think he says at the beginning, effectively, you're boring. I don't want that in my life. So I don't want you in my life. And I don't dislike you, but I just don't want you. And so that's why he rejects his you know, what Pádraic thinks is his best friend, which seems more like his drinking buddy. You know, it's extreme.
It's interesting too, because that scene in the middle where he's talking, that again, the scene where Pádraic is drunk, the police officer is indifferent to which side is winning. He just wants to see the dead bodies. And it's like that kind of matches this, which is like, it just can't be boring. That's fine. You know? And that's, I think, at Colm at the end, it's like, great, it's not boring anymore. And then, like Johnny said, the relationship looks like it changes because now they're both not boring.
Well, right. I mean, they're right, but whether or not the relationship is over is not really resolved.
Right.
But it is clearly, there is in the relationship, there's sort of a switching of positions in terms of balance. But yeah, I mean, Colm at the beginning is very clear that he just doesn't want to have anything to do with Pádraic because he's boring. He has nothing to offer, and he's just sick of it. So he's just stopping. And that's why, you know, Pádraic just doesn't understand that at all, because he's just sort of, you know, he's just an innocent or a fool or however you want to call it. He's just really, really not at all allowing anything to affect him very deeply. I mean, his sister is quite opposite of that. She's very different. But she holds herself aloof, but it's not because she is without compassion or feelings. It's just that she's not really happy where, you know, we're living at the end in Inisherin. But she does something about it. So how does that sound, Teresa? Does that
Oh, I agree that the main character resolve is changed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, you know, it's not like a Hollywood change. It's pretty subtle.
It's a better kind of change.
Well, there's a much more emphasis on growth, you know, and resistance to growth. So, I mean, because he's so resistant, it almost looks like he's a steadfast character. And there's no moment of change, except the closest thing is when his miniature horse or whatever it was, when it dies and his sister leaves, the two of those events change his direction, you know, from not passive, but definitely less assertive to much more assertive. Okay. Main character approach, doer or beer? And how do we know? Or should we skip this one?
Say beer.
Isn't he a doer because he keeps going after him and wanting to continue being friends with him?
Right, but I think that's the whole point. Is he's essentially he's putting himself in there to be friends. He's not doing anything.
But he keeps approaching him. He won't leave him alone. He keeps going back.
Well, I mean, there's a certain physicality. It's not just sitting in, you know, he wants to solve things by, you know, being a certain way. I want to, you know, I'm being friendly and being, you know, but that's just not working for him, unfortunately. But I mean, of the two of them, Colm seems to be much more of a doer, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
I mean, when he runs into a personal problem.
So we're talking about the overall story.
No, we're talking about the main character. I was just talking about
okay.
Colm the influence character. I mean,
Okay.
even as a handoff character, the sister, when she runs into a problem and she has to address it, you know, she does something about it. She leaves. Yeah. So, and you know, and Colm cuts his fingers off.
He just kind of stands there. Then I can see that. Then
right, he puts himself into the environment and hopes that just
It
him
will-
being there, things will change around
yes,
him, as
I agree
opposed
with that.
to, you know, doing something. He doesn't.
I saw him walk over there and put himself into the environment. I thought, okay, that's doing something. Now I understand.
No,
Thank
but
you.
but he doesn't go in there and do something. He just goes
Right.
in there.
In there. That's
Right.
that's all he does.
Right.
Yes.
It's just, okay, I'm going to put myself in the proximity of him, and that should solve the problem.
Okay, yes,
So,
I see it. I agree with it.
so as a beer, it's much more, he's expecting that the way he is, by being, you know,
I mean,
open and friendly, and
I think some examples of this too are like when he goes to the bar, he expects if I'm at the counter, Colm will come stay next to me, right? And then when Colm really abandons him, he just adopts a friendship with Dominic, who he actually looks down on, right? But he's available, so they hang together because he's adapting to sort of the new situation.
right. Yeah. Okay. And okay, let's see if we can do this one. A main character problem solving style, linear or holistic. Anybody have a sense of what it might be and some examples to back that up?
It has to be linear, right? I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
if I do this, this will happen. If I do
Right.
that,
If I
this will happen.
apologize, we can be friends again. If I
well, and he can't make any of the leaps. Like, it's like, what do you mean? We're friends. This is what we do. We sit here, we drink. There's no bigger picture at all. It's like,
Yeah, if I go get Colm, then he'll forgive me and come to the bar.
Right.
I did for a while think that Colm was linear because he was cutting off his fingers. If you see me, I'll cut off my fingers. But I realized that I think that that's really him adjusting the balance of what it's like to live on the island, right? Like, I want it to be true that my music lives forever, but if I cut off my fingers, then I'm in line, I'm sort of back in balance with the reality that my music is going to go nowhere.
Wow. That's a great observation. I had that didn't occur to me, but that's really interesting.
It helps to be a chronic depressive. You see those things really easily.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
You know any?
Let me see. In the room,
It sounds more like somebody took music lessons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So, but so you said you were thinking that, but
no. But I think that's holistic. I think Colm is actually quite holistic. Like he's
Colm, yes.
I did think at first he was linear, and then I realized that even though that's a very specific act he's doing, it was changing things. It was not a specific goal that he was after. And I think also there's the classic, like, when in doubt, holistic people make music to change the environment, and there was plenty of that. So there was that. But I think, but we should stick to the argument of why Pádraic is linear. I think that's more important. But yeah, but for those things, right? It's like, oh, it's April 1st, therefore yesterday was a joke. That's very linear, right?
Right.
If I walk my cows past his house, he will resume our friendship.
Right. If cause effect.
yeah, also if he gets rid of his new music students are friends, then he can be friends again.
Right. Yeah, the cutting off the finger is such a nonlinear thing. It's such a it's like, huh? So you'll cut off your own finger and that's supposed to stop me? It's like, okay. And Pádraic didn't get it. Even after he cuts off his first finger, still doesn't, it just never understands that. All right, story driver, actions or decisions? Which do actions drive decisions or decisions drive actions? And please give some examples of like major turning events. Come on.
Has to be action. Come on.
Action.
Yeah.
I thought
If
it
you
was,
do this, then y'all cut off my finger. You know, I'll do, you know.
And then I cut off my finger and your donkey dies. So now I'm going to decide to burn down your house.
Right. Yeah, it's you know.
I think what makes this one particularly tricky is it feels like the beginning is Colm's decision to no longer be friends, but that's not how we experience it. We experience the action half of it. Right.
Right. It doesn't sit, but it doesn't, he basically moves away. It's like,
Right.
what?
But he's not there, right? He's not there when he
No, but it's
ignores
like,
him. Yeah.
right. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, wait, well, what happened? I mean, yeah, there was a decision before that, but that was really not a core event. It doesn't, it was pre the beginning of the story. The first was the surprise estrangement by
Right.
the walking away or moving away, or you know.
And then would the middle one, I think the first threat of cutting off the finger is at the right spot to be a second driver. And then what it does, right, is it forces Pádraic to decide if he's going to listen to that or not.
Oh.
And I'm not sure that that one is right, but that is like when that happened, I checked the time in the movie and I was like, oh, this is where the driver would be. So maybe the action there is.
Well, the action is just he shows up like he normally shows up.
Right.
Again. And it's like, whoa, or you know, or you could either that or you could say, no, I think because that really, well, it's
in the bar, right? But I think maybe you're right. It's the same thing. It's he continues to talk to him like he always did.
right.
So
It's a kind of like a deliberation, an action version of deliberation.
yeah,
It's not a moment, it's a sequence or something. You know, it's not the like a decision point, it's like a deliberation, but the action version of that.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
or even, you know, the finger getting, you know, found when he finds the finger. That also could easily be the turning point, the act turn, because it's
You know, that makes more sense because that's when the context of the story is actually new.
right. Because it's like, what just happened? And then, whoa, okay. And it does sort of change, and then of course the other ones get cut off, and they find those, which also coincides with, you know, shortly after, with it's sort of in the same sequence, the miniature horse dying, choking to death.
Right.
Okay, and ultimately, you know, it's ultimately bringing the dog back sort of brings it full circle to but it's in a different place. Definitely more like a spiral. You know, where they started out versus where they ended. He burns down the house and a bunch of other things go on, but then when they go down to the beach again and the dog runs up to him, it's kind of like, oh, okay, so you're alive. Didn't see that. So but it's kind of it's over, but we don't know where it's going to necessarily go, but it definitely is now. If it continued on, it would be a different story now, because you have that character has changed, and Pádraic has changed, and so it's a completely new dynamic between the two of them.
Yeah.
All right. Story driver, time lock or option lock, and how do we know? What examples do we have to support it?
The amount of fingers he has.
Yeah, well, that's why I laughed.
I was gonna say that.
But that's not actually true, because he doesn't run out of fingers.
On his playing hand.
Yeah, but he didn't. That story's not over, right? I mean, if they did it one finger at a time, then yeah, you'd know. Kind of like, all right.
I feel like,
go ahead.
I feel like some of the options have got to be exits out of the friendship that Pádraic's not taking, right? He could just listen at the beginning. He could leave with his sister to the mainland. He could again back off after the second set of fingers and the first set of fingers. I think that's at least, I think, one set of options that are going to be in there.
No, I think that those sound pretty good, because obviously what he thinks, what sort of looks like brings it to the climax, is that, okay, it's not, it doesn't feel like it's over, but when he sets the house on fire,
right,
and he sees him in there, he's like, okay, well, all right, I guess he was, but he doesn't expecting him in there, because he gave him warning and everything. And then, but once essentially his dog goes back and sees that he's not dead, well, that's when it's pretty much over at that point. And they have that sort of strained, weird conversation, because it's not that they've swapped places, but that, Colm is sort of like, oh, okay, well, I think we're kind of even now. And Pádraic is like, you weren't in that house, so we're not even any. So, but it started a sort of a different story. If it's going to go on from anywhere, the inequity does not seem to have been resolved, but it does. The other one seems to have been resolved, but another one still like remains, or a new one comes out of it.
right.
So that would be an option lock. All right, outcome, success or failure?
Yes.
Hmm?
Success.
And why?
Well, I see Colm as being the protagonist, and he got exactly what he wanted.
Right.
Yep.
All
Like
right.
that last shot of the two of them at each end, right? Is like, I mean, it's a bunch of different things going on, but one of the things for sure is it's like, cool. We're like, I think John said it's an analogy to like war or whatever. It's like, cool. You got exactly what you wanted.
I mean, the question too of like what Colm wanted was a little split for me, because at one point he wants to live forever, right? Or he wants his he wants to make a dent in the universe. And another one is that he's tired of being bored. You know, and I think the tired of being bored one is the protagonist one. And because that's also, and the reason I'm putting that in the OS is that's the problem. That's also the problem the sister solves.
Right.
So it's not limited to Colm, and he unbores, you know, the island as much as he can.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely feels like a success. The sense of it is that it's success in that the saving the relationship was not the goal. I don't think, but sort of ending it's almost like ending the status quo was the goal.
That's perfect.
You
Yeah.
know, the status quo of the relationship, the status quo of living on the island, the status, you know, you got little bits of it. I think that's one of the things that's different about this kind of storytelling is that they split things up into little pieces and sprinkle them as opposed to just drop them in, you know, like most American type stories, they just drop it in one plunk at the end. You know, so that together the mosaic of all the pieces show what the outcome is, as opposed to you look to one moment and say that says success, whereas the weight of all these little moments pretty much indicate that it's success. And that's definitely a different style of storytelling. not the one that's closest to where Dramatica was designed to work with, which is more of the Hollywood model. All right, and judgment, good or bad, and why?
Very bad.
Very bad.
And why?
Well,
Huh.
he's miserable. Like
Yeah,
his,
he's like a bloodthirsty, miserable person.
Okay.
And,
I mean, in general, it's not just a one person thing, but yeah.
He's
And
never
it-
gonna let this. He's never gonna get over it. Never let it go.
he's also the biggest fool on the island now.
He's the biggest what? Fool?
He's
Well,
the
yeah,
biggest,
Dominic's dead, right?
he didn't
Oh.
want to be the biggest fool on the island, and now Dominic is dead, and he's the biggest fool on the island.
And he knows it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a personal tragedy, which I think feels exactly about right. You know, because it does feel like the enmity, the active enmity between the two former friends is not necessarily resolved, but it kind of is resolved. It's, you know, it's not that there's no that there isn't no, let's put it this way, the breakup has finished. If you want to look at it that way, you know, the relationship was breaking up, and it definitely was hard to do.
That's a good way of putting it.
But it was a successful breakup, but not a happy one. Okay, I like that. So let's go to the theme browser. I'll pop up to the top. And let's see if we can find, let's see how much of this we can actually identify before we get all choked up, if we do. Well, we know our main character is a beer. So he's going to either be in fixed attitude or psychology, or, you know, manner of thinking, manipulation. Anybody have any thoughts as to what domains are in which through line?
It just seems like the overall story just with the constable, it seems like a manner of thinking manipulation overall story to me. And I just, and you're going to say like, well, give me examples. The constable, his sister, just the fact that somebody out of nowhere says, I don't want to be your friend anymore. It just seems to be like a manner of thinking story from all the characters in one way or another to me.
Okay. Which would make the relationship in activity. Right? And
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a little violent.
huh?
It's a little violent.
Would-
Their friendship goes to hell through violence, I would say, specifically between the two of them.
right? And that would put our main character in fixed attitude and our influence character in situation. Is there anybody have some examples of that might support that? The main character in fixed attitude and the influence character in the situation.
Well,
Yeah, I would say the concerns are really super strong, but
Well,
and I can,
if you want to go to the concerns, that's fine, because they make up that, I mean, they help inform.
yeah. So like for Pádraic, the main character is innermost desires, because it's just heartbreaking and it's like hurts, and he loves his friend, and it's we get to experience what that's like. Like you just love somebody, and then all of a sudden they've changed on you. And then the Colm, like Mike said earlier, is he just wants future legacy. Like he wants to be remembered for something, but not the memory version of it, but the future. You know, and he only has so much time left, and you know he's got to do this is how he wants everything to be in the future, which is I think also Mike had two things that Colm was after. One was not being bored, and one was the other one. So that was kind of like his influence character concern.
totally.
Obtaining is definitely all the violent control, breaking, you know, ripping off thumbs, killing animals, burning down houses. And then the changing one's nature, that's what his goal was to get Pádraic to be a different person, like to grow up, stop being such a naive simpleton and be interesting. And that's why it's like success at the end.
And even his sister wants to, you know, be somebody different. She wants to grow, she wants to be, you know, suffocated by the island, and wants to, you know, wants change.
And Dominic too wants to become someone different. I mean, I think he wants to become someone that she loves, you know.
Mm-hmm. So everybody okay with that arrangement?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So we're saying manipulation, overall story, main character. There we go. And now Jim was arguing for a changing one's nature, innermost desires, obtaining, and future set of concerns. Anybody have support or alternatives to that? And again, this is the place to explore and to learn. It's not a get it right or get it wrong necessarily. So, I mean, if you have other thoughts, I think we all would love to hear them, just so that we, you know, we get.
The only thing that struck me, and I didn't get to rewatch it again, so I'm months away from it. But just while I was watching it, Colm, the element of ending and unending always seemed really strong to me. And I know it's not in the concerns that we were looking at. But Colm seems very, very obsessed with ending and legacy. And I know that could be future, but and then the whole idea of war being, you know, war is sort of this perpetual cycle of violence, and especially this kind of a, the Irish Civil War. It's still going on. So I just feel like that was a really strong current throughout the whole thing. But I don't know if it's a different layer or if it's not present in the thematics, but that was the only thing that struck me as.
It's funny, it struck me in the opposite way, which is that the friendship they thought Pádraic was unending. He thought it was forever. And what stunned him was the interruption of the friendship, or the ending of the friendship, I should say. But that's also enclosure under innermost desires to a certain degree. So for him,
yeah, I mean, for hope is great for him too. Like he doesn't give up hope. But I don't know. There was something really strong about just the allegorical nature of this kind of a civil war as a backdrop. And
initially when I watched it, I also felt that sort of heaviness of that I tend to feel with like when we're looking at past and memories and like conceptualizing. But so I think it's there. I'm not convinced that that's like the where we need to kind of sink into the issues of the through line. But I do think I feel like there was like a leaning into that, maybe with like some of the like costs or forewarnings or something like that was a bit like heavy in that family of elements. I thought I did end up thinking after kind of thinking about it, I did end up agreeing with, I think, what Jim was saying with future obtaining, changing one's nature, innermost desires. And I thought main character seemed very hopeful, like that's what he was wrestling with hope. Like he carried this flame of hope, and I think it added to some of that like childlike innocence. And then I saw the obstacle character wrestling with like delay, like my life hasn't started yet and I only have this much time left. And so I was kind of getting those feelings. So that's why I ended up leaning towards the bottom left quadrant.
Right. Excellent. Any other thoughts?
If I see the main character as hooked onto the past, would that make the impact character the present?
No, but we might find,
Okay,
because those are both in the same domain.
yeah.
And the thing is that you might, both the past and the future are going to be identified with the Colm character, the one who cuts off his fingers. And of course, since he's in a relationship with the main character, that's going to be heavily in a relationship back and forth. That's going to be juxtaposed. What Colm is going to be reflected in the relationship and by the main character in the storytelling more than anything else. See, the thing is that if you think about it for Pádraic as the main character, he's not really reflecting on we don't know anything about his past at all, or he's just sort of the happy idiot, and he's just sort of trudging along without a whole lot of sense of time. Whereas Colm really does seem to have much more sense of time in his life, which is why I think I agree that those things like the past and the future, how things are changing, the present. It may even be that the past is a benchmark or something. So that would explain why it would be somewhat prominent.
Right.
I mean, it's possible. I don't know what the story form is going to be yet, but so I'm going to go ahead.
I feel like there's a part of me that wants to talk a little bit about the bottom right, because there was a sense to me of that the relationship was about learning to be a different relationship. The relationship is growing that way. That Pádraic too was trying to be, he was trying to understand everything, which for him would be conscious, right? He at one point is very conscious of like, am I dull? Am I dull? And maybe that was just that that particular act. But and then conceiving also, to me, in a certain degree, feels like it could work in some aspects of the OS. Dealing with the priest might be something like expediency, or the boredom on the island could be deficiency. Even what I said earlier about Dominic, it almost feels better to say that he was trying to see if the sister could conceive of him as somebody who was worth marrying. And then for Colm, he's doing a lot of work right now in the present. He is teaching the music and writing the music and becoming repulsive as he cuts off his fingers and that kind of thing. So I wonder if people have any thoughts about the bottom right.
Well, they don't make a big deal about him cutting off his fingers. You don't see people repulsed or anything. I mean, I sure felt like it was freaky.
We were repulsed, but maybe that's not.
We were as an audience, but didn't see that actually in the story itself. And if you think about it in the relationship, if you look at obtaining, just think of it as loss.
Right.
I mean, rather than trying to gain something, it really is focusing on loss. The loss of the relationship, loss of fingers, loss of,
the horse.
The horse. I mean, that's not sort of in the relationship, but yeah, it is related because the fingers kill the horse. And the burning of the house is a direct response to this sort of, I'll make you lose you took away this from me, and I'll take that away from you. And so it definitely, that's why to me the obtaining part really seems to hit all the way through the story, not just a particular act, but it really just seems to keep on coming back to loss, more loss, more loss. And of course, yeah.
And I think actually, I'm trying to play around with it, but I think Jim's argument that like what we're experiencing through Pádraic is the loss of the friendship is that dominates. So it's really hard to look away from that.
Right. It really is. He's constantly moping around about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main theme, it's really weird because it's breaking it down psychologically like this with Dramatica, but because like I was saying at the beginning of this, that it's just such a weird Irish story that they repeatedly mention niceness, that you hear the word nice like about 12 or 15 times through this movie. Like even when people are talking about, he's like, am I dull? Am I a dull person? And the bartender and the guys at the bar is like, no, you're a nice guy. And it's like you hear like even the Banshee woman, and it's like people keep bringing up the importance, and it just seems the theme of this story is talking about just being nice. You hear the word nice so many times. I just feel like Martin McDonagh is like bringing up the subject of niceness, and just what I've read about this film, they bring up the subject of I don't know what I'm trying to say, or like if this helps, like what we're talking about, but it's like that theme and the recurrent theme of animals that like at really crucial moments in different scenes when people are like at loggerheads with each other, and then all of a sudden in the background you'll see like a window, and all of a sudden a horse or a cow will show up its face. And I just think there's something beyond this, that it's like there's metaphors in addition to the psychological breakdown of this story. You know what I'm trying to say?
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, there are so many, you know, not only metaphors but also symbols. Lots of symbols for different
Yeah.
things.
Just
And I think that,
of it. Yeah.
and I think a lot of the symbolism, much of it's probably lost on us, you know, because we're just not familiar with the extra meaning that is culturally embedded in some of those images. And you know, the old crone, you know, sort of saying, you know, predicting 2 people are going to die or whatever it was, one or 2 people, and so yeah, there's probably a lot of imagery and references and language that has tons of meaning beyond what I think what the story form has. It's kind of like, and it's more than just window dressing. It's definitely, it's stuff that is storytelling elements that are put in for a very particular, very specific audience. Partly, I imagine, to capture a reality that with which we're not familiar. So a lot of the symbols we don't get, and so the people who do sort of get that extra meaning. But also, you know, to get that flavor, but also to give a genuineness to it, and a strangeness. I think it seems like it's genuine, but it's also terribly foreign.
It has something else too. Maybe it has truth, because my husband was telling me, you know, a few years ago about this person, you know, joined this organization. You know, he was helping people and so forth, and this organization, and he met somebody that had joined the organization, and then he met someone that he grew up with and had been friends with that was, you know, doing volunteer working with them, and he wanted nothing to do with him, absolutely nothing, and he never could figure out why. So it happens in real life, I guess. So I was just putting that out there. Somebody could have been including something that actually happened.
Oh, yeah, the inspiration for it, you know, very often comes from some
that
bit of
actually happens.
Yeah, something happened to the author or to somebody, you know, some part of it. So I'm going to choose the obtaining one, which the concern.
But that person just chose to walk away and, you know, not communicate with them.
Right, there are lots of reasons. Lots of reasons
Yeah.
for that. I mean, sometimes it's, you know, it's like what happens when people go to a cult or to a, you know, join a particular group that doesn't want to associate with people that are not in the group, you know, things
Or
like
no,
that.
even if they're in the group, it's that they don't want anything to do with the person.
Right. Nope, that happens.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just looking at the relationship, and well, let's look at the main character. So we have innermost desires. We've been talking about sort of hope and dream and closure, not so well, denial to some extent. And anybody have a feeling of which quad of elements seem to be where the story seems to be focused? We've got under closure, we have consider, reconsider, pursue, and avoid. Under hope, we have logic, feeling, control, and uncontrolled. Under denial, conscience, temptation, help, and hinder. And under dream, faith, support, disbelief, and oppose. Or are there ones that just seem to be like, those don't make any sense? Either way you want to narrow it down doesn't matter to me. Are there any in there that speak well to you, or if not, we can go to a different through line. So this is about Pádraic.
My vote's for hope, but I think I already said that. I think he carried a flame of hope throughout, and he was sort of wrestling with, like, he sort of had this, I see on there, like, optimistic anticipation. I kind of felt that from him about the friendship, like when he was sitting at the bar, like waiting for Colm to come. So my vote would be for like hope.
I've got to say denial, because there's so many times when he won't shut the fuck up. And it's like even the bartender and his sister's like, why don't you leave him alone? Why don't you say he's cutting his fingers off? He doesn't want anything to do with you. Why do you keep bothering him? And to me, that's kind of like denial.
Well, not only that, temptation is about doing things without thinking through the consequences. And the idea that the fingers are going to get cut off is not something that crosses his mind when he goes and talks to his friend.
And then there's dream with
If
disbelief.
I sell your script, and you get the money.
Pardon me, Lloyd? Oh. Didn't quite catch that.
I missed what he said.
All right. So Lloyd, if you want to repeat it, we're happy to hear it, but we didn't quite catch that. Any other thoughts from we've got, seems like we're in the right area. Question is, should we look in what's over in the overall story?
Is disbelief too much of an emotion for his dumbness?
For his dumbness?
Well, just not acknowledging anything, just numbness, maybe numbness in not processing what the person's trying to tell him, just
I'm just
continuing.
Well, disbelief is, the belief that something is untrue. So, I mean, disbelief could be, in that he just doesn't believe that it's well, what is his through line about? His through line is about
I feel like his through line's about maintaining the friendship.
well, is that in the friendship through line, the subjective story through line, or the relationship through line, or is that in his? What's uniquely him? What is he worried about? I mean, he is definitely, the relationship is very important to him. Why is it so important?
Isn't it because he's a child?
Okay, but that flavors it, but doesn't explain it. What do you mean by that? By saying he's a child?
Oh, like I would say maybe kind of like Teresa's thing, like it's like a kid's rosy outlook on how people should be with each other, and like it's shown to be problematic, the fact that he's like, well, we're friends, like we like each other. I would say the nice guy thing too, where it's like you're a nice guy, that his optimistic, hopeful attitude is what everybody is pointing out to him as like what's wrong with him, even though he's like, what are you talking about? You're just supposed to be nice, like a kid, we're just friends. and that's shown to be problematic. And then at the end, he, grows out of that niceness. So kind of like a naive, hopeful outlook towards things. Like everybody should play nice with each other.
I mean, it's like, just to
as-
build on that, it's like he doesn't understand why animals can't be in the house, right? He's the only one who has a pet, so to speak, right? That he spends his time with.
An atypical pet.
And also when
Everyone else, every other animal on that island is a work animal.
Right.
He has
Yeah.
a pet.
and it's like that going back to every time there's like crucial scenes and you see like animals in the background, they're not animals that are like what you just said, like work animals. They're kind of like almost like manger like animals, that they're observing this human behavior that's going on in the foreground.
Right, but they do seem to be more like his friends as opposed to work animals,
Yeah.
particularly the miniature horse.
But I'm just wondering if you had denial, whether and also he's in denial like when the kid gets beat up by his dad by the teapot, and he says I need a place to stay, and the sister is like, no, I want nothing to do, and before she can even say anything, he was like, oh yeah, you can stay with us. And that's kind of a form of denial too, I would think.
In what way?
That he's denying that he's inviting like this annoying kid into the house who's going to stay for God knows how long. And she even says like, well, you can stay, she looks at her brother with like, I can't believe you just invited him into our house. And then later on, when they have the supper, she's like, well, I hope you enjoy your one night at the house. And it's like Colin Farrell is kind of like, oh, he can stay as long as he wants. I mean, to me, that might be another example of denial.
What do you guys think? And I'm also thinking about closure in the opposite corner, which is, closure can sort of just be that idea that you're stuck in the loop, right? And his life is this loop of every day I get you at the bell, we go to the bar, and what he's struggling with is this rupture to that closure, but he kind of refuses to reconsider.
Well, refusing is denial. You're making the argument for denial.
That's fine. I don't care what argument I'm making.
But avoidance is real. If he avoids all of this all the time.
Well, he's definitely not avoiding. It'd be much
Okay.
more of a pursue, if anything.
Okay.
I mean, just because, he's constantly going after his friend, even though his friends
Yes,
told him to stay
okay.
away.
I thought the reason why he kept going after Colm was because he was looking for cause and effect. Like, why did you leave me? Tell me the like
Reason?
Tell me the reason. Tell me the logic behind it.
Which goes back to the big metaphor about this being a metaphor for he specifically chose 1923 because there was a friggin' civil war going on. And it's like one of my favorite scenes is when he's walking along the bay, and off in the distance he hears cannon and rifle fire, and he mutters to himself, he says, well, good luck to all of you, whatever you're fighting for, good luck in that. And it kind of is a metaphor for the whole thing about, why do we treat each other like shit? We're like, there's no reasoning behind it.
So so let's just say that he's got a lot of bad hurt feelings, so he's looking for the logic behind it, but his change then is going to be to control or uncontrolled. And how do you see that?
Well, let's do this. before we answer that, let's look over in the overall story, because we'll be able to see where, sort of triangulate in. And it might make itself known or not. So if we were looking, okay, so if we were in this quadrant, in the hope quadrant, we've got logic and feeling, control and uncontrolled. Now, logic and feeling are in the obligation quad, accepting a task or situation in exchange for someone's earlier or potential favors, or we have controlled and uncontrolled responsibility, accepting or assuming control to the exclusion of others. This is in the nature of changing one's nature. So this is the overall story we're talking about, not the main character. So which of these seem to be more more related? Or if you think of it, as one of them is going to be the problem once it's going to be the problem solution set. So either controlled and uncontrolled is the problem solution, or vice versa, or logic and feeling, or vice versa, which means we've got help and hinder as the co-dynamic pair, or conscience and temptation. So depending on which of these pairings together, that will indicate if it's which one is going to be the symptom and which is going to be the response. Yeah, on the other in the main character domain. Anybody have any thoughts on this? And I'm not selecting that. That's just what I clicked. Or do you want
I
to
can
look?
go.
Go ahead.
I thought, so obviously I'm on the same vein as before, but my thinking was obligation, because it also says for obligation, it's a mental trick we play when we accept a poor situation now in the hopes it will lead to a better one later. And I thought that a lot of the people in the town were dealing with that, and kind of thinking of Siobhan, she kind of accepted a poor situation, sticking around in hopes that it would get better. It didn't get better. So then she actually kind of eschewed her obligations. And then kind of like, what is the obligation that we have to each other as previously BFFs? What is our obligation there? So that's kind of why I was thinking obligation. But again, I'm very excited to hear all the other options, because I might not be on the right track.
Well, no, okay, so in which case logic and feeling would be the problem and solution. One of them would be the problem and one would be the solution, because it would share that with the main character as a change character. And how might we see which of help or hinder, or which one is the problem and which one's the solution, which one's the symptom and which is the response, in your way of in which we're thinking, Teresa?
Well,
thought about that?
I thought the solution was feeling, because I don't know, there was just a whole lot of kind of emotional chaos at the end. I don't know. Maybe I'm not thinking about the terminology correctly, the problem solution. I don't always quite understand what those mean, because I kind of work in the holistic version. But I kind of thought logic was the problem and feeling was the solution. But I can't give concrete examples as to why.
Well,
So
one
that
thing
is my
you can
downfall.
one thing you can certainly see is the end of the story. Our main character is surely pissed off.
They hate each other.
He is not happy. I mean, he's been pretty much, it's been going along, but he's like just one really pissed off person. Angry, upset, sad, probably in there mixed in. So, I mean, that might indicate it would be that direction. Let's just look and see what if we just did this. So we would have the symptom would be hinder, and help would be the response, meaning
I think Teresa said the other way. She said feeling was a solution.
Yeah.
feeling is the solution. Oh, yes, you did. Right. Sorry. So help is the symptom. That actually sounds better. And hinder is the response. Help being, you just, if you look at people are trying to be helpful, just think of that woman with the mail, which Siobhan surely didn't need her help except just to limit it. And the response is to, she's like, okay, I just want to stop talking. I only need this stuff, trying to block her from reading the letter that seems to already have been read or at least opened. And that's definitely an overall story moment, not one that's something that doesn't involve the main and influence character, the principal main and influence character. Anybody else have some examples?
Earlier you said he doesn't suffer fools, right? So like unreasonable people would drive a lot of the protagonist's, the stuff that he does. And then even that comment, like looking at the people that are across the way on the island having the war, like it's helpless. If you think of the symptom as like these people are helpless, there's nothing I can do for them anyways, so all I can do is just put up resistance and just kind of cut off my fingers and do this other stuff and be kind of an irritant because there's really nothing I can do to help you, for everybody involved.
And as protagonist, you're talking about Colm?
For Colm, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting way of looking at that. With him as a protagonist, that kind of a protagonist and is protagonist steadfast influence character.
Yeah, and his help hinder is cool too in his domain as well. But then for Pádraic to go from logic to feeling would be that thing about like why are you like this? Like he wants the reason why and doesn't get it because he's just kind of one step away from being the biggest idiot on the island. And then at the end he could care less what the reasons why are. He's just so mad and so angry.
Right, and you see, he thinks the problem is control. People try to control him or whatever, so he basically does what he wants to do, even though he's been told not to. Don't bring the horse in the house, all those kinds of things, and he just like, well, I'm free to do whatever I want. That works pretty well. Let's just look at the story engine, see what that looks like, because we can see it all at once rather than looking at little bits and pieces. And I wanted to see, so here's one place where preconditions shows up as the past are the preconditions. So because things that are limited because of what, let's say, restrictions imposed on the effort to reach the goal as it concerns what has already happened. The goal is to change one's nature. So how does that play out in the overall story?
You don't want the island to be boring.
Huh?
They want the island to be an exciting place.
Oh, to not be boring.
Yeah, and now unfortunately, like someone's dead and the house has been burned down and there's
Not boring.
gossip at the bar, right? Like it's not boring. I think even for the sister, Siobhan, right? What she wants to do is not be bored. So the way that she gets that for her own concern is by leaving.
Well, it's like war has come to the island, and I mean, they were insulated from it, right? The island was sort of this idyllic place, and what was happening was going on across the bay, and now it's spread, and now the island has changed.
It
And
spread
everybody
because of the conflict between Colm and.
Between, yeah, yes,
Oh, interesting. Well, I see. Okay, so there we're starting to get into those metaphors that are more Irish. I suppose that they're very intentional, but I just saw it for the first time, so none of that has sort of sunk in yet. I usually pick up those insights after it's percolated a bit. Okay. And the cost of the future. Well, all right, that looks, I mean, not only in their relationship, but also in the, Dominic dying,
Yeah.
the future is not, is the war is almost over, right?
They say that. We don't know that that's true.
Okay. So if we look at the overall story, we have the domain of manipulation, or with changing one's nature as the concern. You hear a bunch of crying. That's the coyotes having a party outside. It's very annoying. The issue of obligation, where do we see that show up in the story?
Well, didn't Teresa mention it earlier about Siobhan and her obligations that she had towards Pádraic? And almost like too, like why do we have any obligations to each other if we're gonna want to move beyond?
Yeah, the one synonym that kind of really pulled to me was emotional contract. And like they feel like as people, they have an emotional contract with the island to stay with the island or to leave, and then or end an emotional contract with each other as being this tight-knit small community. So that was kind of another way that I saw the issue of obligation.
I think there's an obligation too in the father-son pairing of the policeman and Dominic, where I think there's a broader one, which is like everyone ignores the fact that they know the policeman is an abuser, but there's also one in the family that's like Dominic's never going to leave because this is his dad.
And there's also seems to be an obligation that everyone is always welcome at the pub, no matter what strains seem to be going on between its patrons. Because everybody seems to be completely aware of what's going on, except of course our main character. But they're just invite him in, and it's like
It was like the John Wick Hotel.
very much so.
What do I need to change so he does not chop off all his fingers?
Oh, the chopping off the fingers is really just storytelling. It's a metaphor for if you don't stop, I hurt myself, because I don't want to hurt you, and my intent was never to hurt you, but you're hurting me by to pursue me, so I'm going to hurt myself in an female mental sex kind of way to change the balance of things so that you will, if you care about me, you won't want me to do that, so you'll leave me alone. That kind of sort of what it means. So it just happens to be a pretty extreme expression of that, but it could have done anything. It could have, you know, cut it, torn up his own. It could have broken his the strings on his fiddle, or you know, on his violin.
He could have broken
by
the
the time-
violin. Yeah.
Well, but if he breaks, you know, and then you break another one, by the end, you can't make any more music because there are no strings on it. So
Okay, I
would have
get
been
it.
A similar
I get
kind of metaphor that's not as bloody. But
So what,
you know,
where was that action or decision? Where is that in the story form? That they do it straight?
well, I think that's probably somewhere in the influence character.
So his uncontrolled solution?
Or in the relationship, one of the others is going to be if be in the relationship and under obtaining in terms of loss. So trying to, you know, end the relationship by damaging himself.
Could it be the
That's
uncontrolled
one way.
response?
Huh?
Could it be the uncontrolled for response?
Solution?
Um,
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the main character.
No,
my
that's the
boxes
influence
are
character
mixed up in my mind.
solution.
Apologies.
But
It's in
influence
the
character
influence character
solution.
solution, but that would be the solution would be coming way too early.
Okay,
I mean, it could be hinder as well, when you're saying, okay, I'm gonna make it more and more difficult for me to do what I want to get done, and maybe
yes, that makes
that'll
sense.
force, that'll have an effect to make the main character stop what he's doing.
That drags out the unpleasant over and over. So, okay,
So that might, you know, I
the
mean,
hinder
the hinder
response.
sounds actually kind of more like it, because again, he's not stopping it, it's just making it more and more difficult each time.
Just kind of dragging it out.
But it's always in response, you know.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Sure, I mean, sure. So we have in the ovary, the symptom is help. Oh, well, okay, again, the store owner wants to help. It's really, she's snooping. And so the solution is to, you know, make it difficult to future mail, or, you know, keep her in the loop about what's going on the other side of the island. You've got the father who's the, you know, the abuser, who try, you know, his help. You know, policeman is trying, you know, he's helping, but it's really, you don't want to get him involved. He really is an abuser, makes it worse. And to try to stop that from happening.
You know, Chris, you keep saying that the woman wants to help, right? I wonder if the symptom is actually that instead of the positive is that it's nobody is of any help, right? The policeman is.
Oh, that's negative.
Yeah, the policeman doesn't help anyone. The father at the church doesn't help anyone. The gossip doesn't help anyone. You know, it's like everything seems.
The only one trying to help is the senior citizen.
Who?
The banshee.
Oh, the banshee.
Banshee. Yeah, I see what you mean. I don't know if she's trying to help. She's more like this, almost like this Greek,
Chorus.
yeah, Greek chorus that, like, you know, he's like, "What are you doing staying?" She just seems like so sinister and not sarcastic, but she's like in your face. You know, you'll find out somebody's gonna die, and you're gonna find. She almost laughs at them, in a Greek, in a dark Greek chorus kind of way.
Right. So this is a question. When the symptom seems to be the negative, does the response also have to be the negative? Chris?
I think he's frozen.
Oh, he looks very happy. He looks very.
You like what you said, right?
He looks very Buddha-like.
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh, wait. Come back.
Yeah, and it's funny how it froze right when we were talking about the Banshee woman.
Well, here, let's ask you guys. So, like, if the symptom is that no one is of any help, right? The response to that is still hinder, but is it also what's the hinder? How do you hinder someone who's not helpful? Right? Like,
You don't let them get involved in your stuff, right? Like,
Right. You hinder their efforts. You basically, keep things to yourself, don't share. With the son, Dominic, you let them stay at your house so he's not getting beat up. Don't let the abuser continue to abuse. Don't let the Snoop. Don't tell the Snoop anything. Those are.
I think the son and father. I think that is a positive approach of help, though, because Pádraic tries to out the father and shame him, and the response to that is, he gets Dominic almost beaten to death. So, which is obviously a hindrance.
right. And he also beats up Pádraic and is like, stay out of my business. Yes.
So there is some positive helping, which or at least tend to be positive.
Right. And the sister's always trying to help him. Right.
Right. But is that if she's helping, but is that really helping? Is it more causing? I mean, is it constructive? She may be helping, but I remember she even her comments. Yeah, you can stay overnight, but you got to leave. And that's not.
Right.
How helpful is that?
No,
I think it's, if you think of hinder as being sort of playing interference, when the policeman tries to, there's that one moment when the policeman tries to sort of go after the main character, then the influence character comes in and basically, punches him or
Right.
knocks socks off, so to speak. And that's like stop. That's where hindering is basically assisting. It's preventing something bad from continuing. I mean, which we see as being helpful, but that's different than help. If you're stopping, if someone's quote unquote helping is problematic, then stopping that or blocking that is good. That's sort of that we're using help in a negative sense, not in a positive sense, and hinder in a positive sense, not in a negative sense. We tend to think of them in the reverse.
right. So if I'm holding Dominic so he can get beat up, I'm helping. And if you prevent me from if you hinder me from that, it's a positive hinder.
Right. If you step in to block it, that's a positive.
Right. Okay.
Or the policeman's about to punch Pádraic, then you basically knocking him out, but not, or knocking him down. That's a good, block, like you'd have in a football team. The blocker comes in, basically they're helping by hindering the other team from tackling the quarterback.
Right.
It's all a matter of perspective. It's like when you have help as a problem, it's like it's very, it is kind of confusing because the word tends to mean the opposite of what the context in which it's being used. So,
Yeah.
sort of the double negative type thing. Okay.
Like-
Yes.
Well, I was just going to ask, like, would it enabling be like a a problematic help?
Yes. Absolutely.
Good one.
Yeah.
Good night.
So I think that that's very, very clear. And then we've also established, so the real problem at the heart of it is looking at things sort of as cold facts, as opposed to the solution is to look at them by how they affect your feelings, or looking at them in a passionate way as opposed to a dispassionate way. Looking at war in a dispassionate fashion is problematic. So I think that in the overall story, that's kind of how they're looking at the war. It's very like, oh, it's their problem type of a thing.
Yeah. And just another solution, a feeling that shows up is it's Dominic the whole time is saying logically Siobhan's never going to go for me, but then he tries feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting because when you see her reaction, she responds, I think, very well to the feeling. It's just that it's just won't work. It's just one of those ones where the solution is, it's not the right solution for the problem, but it was definitely in the right direction.
Right.
How do you
Go ahead.
just one interesting scene? How does this tie in, like with the hinder and help, is when the Colin Farrell character sees the other guy talking to his friend in the bar, and then he's going down the road and he offers the guy a ride, and he was like, oh, we just got a message, you need to leave because something happened to your father. And the guy's like, my father? And he was like, yeah, oh, it sounds hard. And it's like he just Colin Farrell just like totally bullshits him out of jealousy or trying to get the guy to leave town because his friend found a new friend. And I'm just wondering how that scene and that behavior ties in with what we're talking about as far as like the symptom is help. And
well, he's not really helping, but it's couched as help. Not only I'll give you a lift, you get a ride, I'm doing this so things will be better for you, but then the response is it's hindering what he really wants to do. He wants to stay there, and it's like, no, I don't want him to stay here, so I'm going to offer him help disguised, again, I'm going to make it problematic, but disguise it as help. And then that'll help me because I've hindered him and he's left. Yes, that's what I said. We're using help and hinder in these contexts where they're reverse meaning, reverse use. The meaning is the same, but it's just in the opposite context. So you have to think of it as like a sentence, not just words.
Yeah, to me, that was like one of the, it was a weird moment because it was one of the few times that he was like really manipulative and disingenuous as far as like just coming out and lying to get his way. I thought that was a great scene.
Right. And it worked, so when that showed up in the relationship through line, when he discloses that to Colm, sorry. Then what was seen to be help is revealed to be hinder. Remember, he sort of says, "Oh well, you know the guy, the friend of yours, you can tell him it's okay. I was basically lying to you." So suddenly now it's been revealed for truly being hinder, that the help was not really he's not really being helpful. He's actually manipulating it in a way, and again in the relationship through line. And so hinder, as a response to that from on Colm's side, is probably, okay, I'm on the right track. I've got to continue to keep this relationship apart.
Yeah.
There was just that chilling moment when he revealed it. You're like, "Oh, you stupid idiot!" You just blew. Anything that was going to work, that just went out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have questions about any of these pieces? Because it's a very interesting story form in that there's an awful lot of help and hinder is in absolutely every domain. I mean, that doesn't happen that often. Wait, is it? Oh, except for no, it's not in the main character, but it's in the other three.
It can't be. It can't be in all four. Ever.
No, it's not. It's not in the
But
main character, but
it can be three.
Yeah, it's only in three. But all those three. So help and hinder play a big, huge part throughout the story, and I think that's why we see it so much in so many different contexts. You see, this is interesting. The influence character, his unique ability is openness. He's absolutely frank about what he's doing. Right? You're boring. I don't want to be around you. Get away. If you do this, I'm going to cut my finger off. You do it again, I'm going to cut more fingers off. He's just like, that's like, it's right out there. And certainly that openness with follow through has a huge influence on the main character's development, because you suspect that he doesn't really understand or believe what's being said to him, but then of course he follows through and it's like, holy crap. And the benchmark of Colm's benchmark is the past. That's interesting because we don't get much of that. That seems like something that they particularly withhold.
Yeah. Oh.
I think that's one of the
feel like do you feel like that might be reflected whenever we visit his house and the Colin Farrell character goes into his house and there's all these like masks and puppets and stuff that brings back a reflection of some past of Colm that we don't know about? Like there's even a moment where Colin Farrell walks into his house looking for him and there's a mask hanging from a string and he puts it like on his face and he's like playing around with it and then he lets go of it. I mean, I'm just wondering if that's kind of like a reflection of like the benchmark might be reflected in that way.
Maybe.
I think like it's just the only thing we know about the past is that they used to sit together at the bar. And the benchmark of how well it's going is Pádraic still approaching me at the bar, because every time it's not going well when they're together and they're having conversations, right?
But
the
past is never that's not really an element of that. I mean, we know they used to, but that was sort of the starting point, and a benchmark is supposed to show some sort of progress, and I mean, I may just be not thinking of the particulars, but I wouldn't think that by itself, because that would sort of, that doesn't say anything about the past.
The benchmark seems to be his music teaching, right? It like there's more and more students, there's music in the bar. That seems to be at least how Pádraic judges him, right? He goes to the bar and he's like, "What's this?" And then
it's sort of like he's moving more and more away from his past.
But we don't know what his past is.
But sitting around the bar hanging out with Pádraic.
But there's no, well, okay. I don't see it as a unit of measure that indicates anything. To me, but I understand the music thing, and him getting along with a lot of other people, but to me, that wouldn't be the past. So I'm just saying, and maybe by comparison, but we don't have the yardstick. I don't know. That one just does. I'm not sure. It's like what's happened before compared to, it's if you have a benchmark of the past, it's usually going to be either revealing more of the past or hiding the past or something along that, where it's always about the past.
what
It's
about
not.
yeah?
No, go ahead. All right.
What about his I started, but I don't know why this is the past either, but the priest the priest has a word for it, but the depression, the despair. How's your despair? Right? But it doesn't actually seem to be changing, because he's just like,
that's
feel
not
your despair and I'm not going to do anything about it.
right. I suspect that's probably not there, which is which may be why it's hard to gauge. This is really what the benchmark's for. Hard to gauge the growth of Colm.
I saw it as because he is more of a holistic thinker. I saw he did really only briefly mention the past, but he did mention it a few times, just in an amorphous sort of way, where he's like, I did nothing my whole life and now I want to do something now, and it's almost like he wants to reconcile his past, and so it's like he's trying to rebalance, and every time he brings that up, it's because he's like in a moment of, I don't want to do that anymore. I need to rebalance based on not doing anything before.
Okay, that works. Also, if you think of it being a handoff with Siobhan being there, she definitely has much more of that element of, really not happy with the past and getting more and more fed up with it, and then finally doing something about it. So I think between the two of them, that does seem to cover it. All right, let's look at our main character. We pretty much have looked at almost all of them, but the symptom of control and the response of uncontrolled. It's definitely, in this case, I think uncontrolled as in free from control, is a way to look at it, because he definitely sees like someone who's trying to control him, or when things are limited, his response is to sort of go a little bit, make things a little bit more free. I mean, like, you can't have the horse in the house. Well, I'm going to just let the horse in, do whatever I want it to do. Those kinds of rules, or rules are to be broken type of an idea, I think. Any thoughts about either?
When he tells him not to sit next to him, he still goes and sits next to him. Or,
Right. It's like,
don't follow me outside. He goes and follows him outside.
right. That's exactly why he does whatever he wants, as opposed to when somebody says don't do, someone's trying to control him, and it's like, I'll do whatever I want, and I want to do exactly what you told me not to do. Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about. The unique ability of closure. Well, I think that certainly is pretty obvious. You know, he's the one who is able to sort of fix the problem in their relationship for sure. And the overall story, I mean, their relationship is really part of the overall story in some ways, because it affects absolutely everybody, you know. And eventually, you know, at the end, he's basically able to just, his ability to sort of like bring the fight between them to an end, to a resolution, not even to an end, that's what I think what closure probably means there. You know, burning down the house, and then, which effectively, and bringing back the dog, effectively stops the antagonism on Colm's side, right? A critical flaw of preconceptions, the main character. I would say things like, you know, we're friends, we'll always be friends, would be part of that. I think I'm not sure. And then benchmark of memories. Anybody got a idea of that?
It feels a little bit the same, where they don't mention much.
Right. It's kind of weird. I have this feeling that this may be part of what makes it feel a bit like a fairy tale. Is that I don't think that I don't think the benchmarks are very clearly defined. So you don't get a sense of progress, which is what which the benchmark basically gets you a sense of moving forward.
Well, when I was watching this for a long time, I was like, is this a holistic main character? Because I think I wasn't tracking the progress.
Right. And
So,
I think that's why I was like, I love this story. This is great.
I think it's
who needs progress?
Yeah, it just looks like they just they withheld the benchmarks. So you have a sort of a timeless element to it. You don't really have a way to evaluate how things are going.
Yeah, that goes back to going back to like what we were first discussing at the beginning of this, that there's something really weird about Irish tales and specifically Martin McDonagh's plays are like this, that it's like it kind of breaks the rules, and it's just telling a once upon a time story that's always very weird.
Well, but I mean, this seems to be pretty consistent in all four through lines, that the benchmark is not included in the storytelling. I don't think, it doesn't seem like they broke it. They just don't, it's just not illustrated. So there's not like it should be something else, because you could easily see if they put in for our main character, him talking about what they used to do all the time, and remember this, remember that, or what, you know, or having, you know, pictures of what they were doing, whatever type of memorabilia, then you get a real strong sense of forward motion. Or you know, the influence character talking about his past or trying to forget his past, whatever it is. And even in the relationship about, you know, about understanding or misunderstanding and the getting a greater understanding of what's going on in the relationship, or but that's gone. That's just not there. So I think at least that's what it seems to me. I'm really completely open to being told otherwise.
Well,
But
in fact, it's interesting too, because in the one thing that I do hear, I do feel like we see a lot, which is Pádraic trying to understand the relationship. That also makes no progress. He keeps asking the same question.
right. So it's not really a benchmark, but it is
Right,
it's kind of like there's like it's a statement as opposed to growth.
Right. I'm sort of bringing it up because it's like the one place where he does include something of the same shape, he actually doesn't grow it. He doesn't,
Right.
but it's not like he's using a different, it's not like he's using learning. He's still using understanding. He's like hanging. Go.
I would argue that we see impulsive responses as a benchmark throughout, and that his impulsiveness gets worse and worse and worse and worse as we go along. Now, I know we don't have that, but I think that's pretty clearly illustrated.
Yeah, I think there's some primitive responses to solving problems, like the thing that we were discussing earlier about how he like almost like animal like responds in a jealous way to his friend talking to the guy from out of town, and he immediately almost in like a criminal way tells him, oh, your father is sick, you got to leave. And then his impulsive response to setting fire to
that was not impulsive. He went out, he collected the wood, he got gasoline, he got lanterns. That was anything but impulsive.
Okay, maybe that's the wrong.
I think definitely from an innermost desires, you could see him going from basically happy-go-lucky in the first scene to getting depressed, to getting this, and then getting angry, but not violent, but just, you know, you're just picking up a head of steam, and he goes and he deals with it. And versus, you know, and I think that's his concern. I don't think that's really I don't think that was a benchmark. I think that was his development as a character, and his concern of innermost desires was being explored.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because they really, I mean, he did not seem to have much in the way of spontaneous.
Oh, sure he does. He can't control his impulses throughout. That's what causes all the problems. He can't control his impulses to talk to Colm, to keep away from them. He just constantly acts on impulse.
Yeah.
I don't think that's impulsive. I think that's basically, he's always done that. And I mean, let's put it this way. His behavior to me does not seem to be impulsive. It does seem that he's following what his desires are. You know, he wants to be friends. This is his friend, and he wants to continue it, and he doesn't understand it, and he's hurt, and all those.
Yeah, but if you didn't act on his impulse to go talk to him all the time, it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I see what Chris is saying as far as like defining impulse, because it's almost like he's just following the way he thinks the rules should be followed in life. That he's like, when you're friends with somebody, you're friends. And when he sees that his friend is not following those type of strictures, he's kind of like, no, this is not right. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm in the habit of doing, and talking to him because he's my friend.
And again, that I think that falls into the control and uncontrol. It's like when you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to go ahead and do it, based on what my feelings are.
Yeah.
Because he's not like he's doing it. He when he and Dominic talk about maybe he wanted you to stand up to yourself. Is there
I'm saying I see impulses as far more of there's much more benchmark material there for impulse than I see from memory. I mean, in a way, you can say he becomes more calculated at the end. So maybe his impulses die down, but
right.
Yeah. But what throws him over, I mean, what creates the whole crisis, like into the third act or however you want to put it, is that his best friend is murdered, his donkey, it's I think that's yeah, you're right, Chris, that's not impulsive. It's just like, this shall not stand.
Right, he's angry.
You just crossed the line, motherfucker.
That's not benchmark. So that's the concern stuff. That's
but
I'm not arguing.
Well, I just don't think. Well, I don't think that it.
I saw it. So sorry, I'm going to interrupt for a second.
That's
I saw
fine.
the benchmark memory as suppressing things, suppressing the memory of what I was just told not to do by my friend. So I'm gonna, I'm kind of suppressing that memory. And every time he squashed the memory of what was said to him previously, it marked some negative progress, I guess. I don't know. I could be way off, but that was the only thing I could come up with to make it fit.
Yeah, it does just, to me, just seem to fit much better. I mean, a memory is really a memory. It's going to be, a recollection of something that's happened before. Now,
Just out of curiosity, if we were to change the outcome, would that change the benchmark?
If we're going to change the outcome? Let's see. No.
Nope. Okay. Never mind.
Anyway, I think let's just put it this way. The benchmarks to me are either non-existent or severely underdeveloped. Underexposed.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, underdeveloped sounds so negative for such a wonderful story. So maybe
Well, as I said, I think they're underexposed. I just don't think they're not revealed sufficiently to be identifiable, and which is what gives it that sense of you don't know what the speed of it is. You don't know how close you are to the end. You just know it's moving along, and then suddenly you're at the end, but there was very little sense of impending climax.
Yeah.
And I think that's stylistic. I think that is probably much more in tune with the way Irish stories are, because they tend, from the few that I'm with which I'm familiar, they don't seem to have benchmarks at all. Which gives them a feel of meandering. But I think there's clearly a lot more than, if you just take that one piece away, it really suddenly feels a little bit like it's much more meandering. But there seems to be far more structure there than I would have thought on first, if I hadn't given any thought to it.
And more character driven. I think that's why I've gone back and forth and almost ended friendships because of this damn movie. because of what we're talking about.
Just don't cut off your fingers.
I was ready to throw them at a couple of people. It's like I'm not vehemently, militantly
Just keep them attached when you throw them.
I'm not militant. I mean, just the conversations I've had. I'm like, you know what? It's just a different type of storytelling. But some people are just like so linearly. Their brains are so linearly designed that they're not going to accept a movie like this just from what you're talking about because of the lack of benchmarks and signposts, and it's more like a character fairy tale story, you know.
But it seems to be a lot more than that, which is, I'd say for me, a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, and just us discussing it and everything, and like once again, it's like when it was the time that it's in, and what is going on in the background about the Irish Civil War. I think that's what inspired him to come up with this weird story. Was like he wanted to write about the horribleness of people of the people of the same country killing each other, you know.
Oh, good. Well, we're just about on time. Any last questions before we wrap this? No? Okay. And next month we have it's the story encoding session, you know, which we haven't done for a year, so that should be a lot of fun. I'll see. Basically, a story weaving. You know, we encode a story. We randomly pick a story form and a set of characters, and then we make up a story as we go along.
Taking turns, right? Taking turns.
Yep, we do a little round robin, and everybody can pick a story point and illustrate it, and we have a story by the end of the evening.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Keep what went
fun.
keep what went on before and build from that.
Exactly. But we'll go over all the rules and all that, but it could be a lot of fun. As you know,
Good practice.
If it gets produced, then we all share in the
story.
We all go up on stage and
creation
share the Oscar together, or the Academy Award together.
Well, I think there's far, yeah, sure, of course, that'd be fine. I'm not going to resist that. Anybody wants to take credit for that, they're part of it. Okay. Oh, start thinking about movies for next year. And
I have a request.
Huh?
I have a request for one.
Well, I was going to suggest, are you all on the discussion board still or not? No, it's been pretty quiet.
The Dramatica
Discussion group? Yeah, what's it called?
The Discuss?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
Because
check in there every day, every other day. Things get posted.
Do you ever go up there anymore?
Sandy posts. No, he sorry about that. He emails, but yeah, right. I look at it.
Well,
I go on there.
Well, Jim, if you could put up just a post for people to put suggestions for the 2024 films for analysis, that'd be great. I really appreciate that. And so put your
really easy to get. It's really easy to click into, get on to.
Yeah, and if you can't do that, then you can always, I guess, email me, or it'd probably be okay. But my preference would be to do it there, because then we'll also get maybe some other people, they see it, they might add some.
Right.
And then, so hopefully by next time, I'll have, or even before possibly, I'll have the list available for next year, and we will continue on with this craziness.
Chris, I wanted to
Yes.
thank you, but before we leave, I wanted to thank you again for helping me with my hard drive craziness and cranking up movie magic again. I appreciate you taking the time to respond to the emails because it really helped me, and it looks like it's working good now.
Oh, hey, excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
All right, Jim, I want to talk to you a little bit after, so if we can just hang on.
So we leave now, right? Okay, bye. Thanks
Sure,
a
as I
lot.
say,
Thank
okay, I'll stop
you.
sharing it.
Have a great rest of your evening.
Hey, everyone.
You too, guys. So good to
Bye-bye.
see you. So I have
End the
a,
recording. Wait,
oh,
wait a
yes.
second. Stop recording. Okay.